Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of our author interviews for Amazonas Magazine. So today we are going to be talking with Stanislav, and he's got a really cool article about flatfishes in our upcoming 11.1 magazine, which is the first one of the new year. It's a good way to start off with some very funky flatfishes. So hi, Stan, how are you?
Hi. Thank you. I'm good. So thank you for inviting me for an interview. It's really intriguing.
It should be fun.
I'm really keen to hear which questions do it have to be, and I hope I can answer all of them.
I'm sure it'll be fine. You managed to get a whole article out about flatfishes, so I think we'll be good. So where are you right now? You just got home too. So tell me where you are and where you just came back from.
So now I'm finally at home, and I'm in Neuss, which is a small city near Düsseldorf, which is in West Germany.
Very nice.
So I'm based here, and here's my house, and here are my aquariums, here's my wife, here's my hedgehog, everything is here.
Very nice. It's all there. So you just got back from Cameroon, right?
Yeah, that's true. I was in Cameroon, and I'm back since, say, 10 days or something.
Very cool.
So I spent 11 days, which were very interesting, but also, of course, very challenging. As you can imagine, this is Africa pure.
Yeah, that cannot be simple for traveling. We will come back to this because you've written about Cameroon for us before. But before we get into all the cool stuff, I need to know a bit more about you. So what's your background with fish?
My background? Well, I started Zebrafish as I was 4 years old, which is a pretty while ago, so like more than 30 years. And of course, I started with some random stuff. But in the course of time, I was more interested in some special fish. It started with Lake Victoria cichlids, which are still not very common in the hobby. And this developed and developed. So I went through the different phases, as most of aquarists, as most of hobbyists do, ended up by now in Central African, West African corner, but also keeping a lot of fish from Southeast Asia, which I'm also enjoying to travel. And for now I have a full cellar of aquariums. There are about 30, and I don't dare to tell you the number of litters. We are in Europe counting litters. Because I normally don't remember myself how many liters those are. But just to give you an idea what it is, I have spare tank for reverse osmosis water for 1,300 liters down there. So you can imagine from the water change volume how much it is.
Yeah, you're probably approaching more water than air in the house, but that sounds good. That seems fine.
Yeah. And I think the city council likes it also.
Yeah, probably. They're like the guy with all the RO water. Yep. That's funny. Okay, so you've got plenty of tanks, but you've studied fish. So you did a PhD.
Indeed. I studied chemical engineering, and then the opportunity turned up to do my PhD on zebrafish. As you probably know, zebrafish is a model which is enjoying high popularity among the scientists. So I was doing my PhD on zebrafish as potential model for human blood-brain barrier.
Oh, wow.
That was quite interesting work. I did a lot of analytics, like liquid chromatography, like mass spectrometry, and that's how I basically ended up in the industry, working for an American company, actually, nowadays for waters, and selling mass spectrometers for them.
Got it. Oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah, it's still it's a very enjoyable position where I can see a lot of researchers doing their things, being somehow involved, and I still have a lot of contact with people doing zebrafish research.
That's so cool. Oh, wow, what a neat background. All right, so do you actually keep zebrafish as well? Or are you just done with them? You saw them way too much in the lab.
That's basically the case.
That's what I figured. You're like, I never want to see a zebrafish again. We're fine. That's great. All right. So before we get into some of your more recent travels, let's talk about the article that you've got currently in our upcoming issue of Amazonas. So the cover, as everyone will see when I put the picture up, is of course all about freshwater flatfishes, which, as we were talking about earlier, are generally fish that we only know from our plates, not very much from our aquariums. So yeah, tell me a bit about how you got into being interested in freshwater flatfishes.
Oh, that's a very good question, because I was traveling through Malaysia with a friend of mine who is a local. And basically, my first thought was also about the plate. I actually like soul fish, like them very much on the plates, but I never thought about keeping them in my aquariums. And then we were visiting this river, which is called by local scientists, by local ichthyologists, the 100 species river, because there are huge amounts of fish and species in the river. And then we were standing on the sandy bench there, and then suddenly he said, "Oh, do you want to have some freshwater soulfish?" I said, "Wow, there are freshwater soulfish. I never thought about them. Let's pick few." And then he grabbed just a cent from the bottom, and there were a few of them in there. So this was basically the moment I was introduced. And then I looked at them. They were small, they were cute. And he confirmed me that they will stay small and they will stay cute and not be like 50 centimeters eating everything.
Right.
So I thought, wow, that sounds like a great addition to a tank. Let's try it out. And that's how I got introduced to them.
It's funny because when you see pictures of them and you think about their size, and you've written that they're not very particular about their water parameters either, it's kind of surprising that they're not more popular. Do you think it's just because they're not very well known, or they're just, I don't know, not as flashy as people are used to for aquarium fish? Or what do you think?
Well, there are several reasons. I don't want to take away much of the upcoming Amazonas edition.
Sure.
But in the other article, you will see that the most soulfish are actually saltwater species. There are just like 30 species from the freshwater, which is already kind of trouble, because there are not so many. You will kind of have troubles to find them somewhere. And because they're also not very colorful, they're often overlooked. Let's say it honestly. They are often overlooked. And also, well, from the regions they're coming, this is the Asia, Southeast Asia, like Indonesia, like Malaysia. There are also few species in South America. The exporters, they try, of course, to concentrate on the fish which are pretty and easy to bring to the people. So I think then you just easily overlook them.
I think so.
That's
it's too bad. I'm hoping more people start to look into this, because it's amazing how little is still known about keeping them in captivity, and then particularly breeding them in captivity. And I guess they probably have a fairly complex life cycle when it comes to laying eggs and moving around in waters, because they're capable of tolerating such swings in salinity, which is really impressive. So yeah, I'm kind of curious to see if more people will start to have some interest in keeping these in the aquarium trade. Could be cool.
Absolutely. But what I see in Germany in the last time, that indeed we have regular imports from a species which will be described also in the article, in the other article by Stephadon. Mm-hmm. And this species seems to gain more popularity now, because this species indeed is not laying eggs. They're live viewers, and more simple to spread. So what I'm observing is that more and more people have them. It's not always about colors, but about a fish which is completely different to all fish you can get on the market. And so people are getting curious about it.
I think so. And they really are so strange. I mean, I'm sure we talk about this in other articles, but for anyone who hasn't read much about them yet, it's crazy to see pictures of them as larvae. And then you see it as soon as they start to settle, because they look normal. Yeah. They look like just a regular fish. And then as soon as they start to settle out, the eyes migrate to the one side of the body and they just completely flatten out. And it's just the strangest thing. amazing to see the pictures of the progression. And it's just, yeah, such an odd fish. But
and
very
this
cool.
is something everybody can actually observe in his own aquarium or her own aquarium. Also for the children, I think it's a great thing to observe. I mean, this metamorphosis is happening in about 5 days for the live-bearing species. That's amazing. As you said, it's amazing.
Yeah, that really is. It's so impressive. So you mentioned something that I thought, and other people have mentioned this too, with their feeding requirements. And people in general don't seem to have very good luck with bloodworms and feeding them bloodworms. Any idea why that is? It seems like such a logical food choice for them, but yeah.
Well, there is on the one side this fact that sometimes the bloodworms are not of good quality coming in. So maybe sometimes you have few bloodworms which are really not good, which may be infected by some bacteria, and then of course they got bloated and they're gone, right. The fish. Maybe this is one explanation.
Yeah.
So the quality of the bloodworms is really important. I mean, there were like 5 soulfish, and obviously all of them ate the bloodworms, and only one died.
Yeah.
But each time I fed them, one died. So basically, few were okay with the food, and maybe they got the good ones, and then one of them was always getting the bad ones, right. And then it was that.
So interesting. But yeah, you're not the only person to report that. So yeah, it seems like maybe it's a good food item to stay away from just for now until we know more about that. But yeah, interesting.
Just stay to the facts. It's fine.
Yeah, we'll just stick with that. Okay, so tell me more about where you were in Malaysia when you found these flatfish.
Well, that's let's say it's a river middle in the nowhere.
Yes.
Middle in the jungle, and there's a small piece in the jungle in the central. It was in the north central Malaysia, and this pieces of jungle is of course surrounded by plantations, but still very intact. So once you enter the jungle, you of course will meet different animals living there. And some of them are not very nice, like the leeches.
Oh, yes.
And unfortunately, those things are very abundant in Malaysia, but in this forest, they were like really at home.
Yes.
So in order to get to the river, you need to pass away them. And well, at some point, you are maybe safe in the water, or you think you are safe in the water, and then they're jumping from above.
Yes, I was amazed by this. So was this when you were in Brunei or near there? I'm assuming.
I was also in Brunei. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I must tell you, if somebody goes with me on the expedition, you can be sure I will find the leech where there are no leeches.
Oh.
I'm really good. I'm really good in it.
Very good. Good to know. So we'll stay away from you. No.
So you just rather take me with you.
We'll just bring you along.
Come to me, and you are free of them.
That's so funny. Yeah, my most memorable leech experiences were also in Borneo, and oh boy, they really are everywhere. And I was not expecting them to be at the edges of leaves like that, because I don't know. In my head, that's not where I was expecting to find them. And you walk through the forest, and they're just on the edge of the leaf looking for you. It's like, oh,
yes, waiting for you.
Not the best. So yeah, but at least there's cool stuff to be found. Okay, so this was Brunei. Yeah, very neat.
Well, so we tried to stay somewhere in the middle at first. So in the middle of the river, which was not very, very convenient, because it was raining a lot in the days before, and normally the river is not so broad, not so deep. And you have some kind of visibility, but for this time it was indeed like maybe 70 centimeters deep, 70, 80 centimeters deep, and it was not a high flow, let's say it like this, but there was some flow, of course. So we first tried to take our nets and look what is in the leaves, because there are a lot of leaves, fallen leaves on the bottom, and there were a lot of pangio, different species like I think 3 species. And
Nice.
Also a lot of catfish, different Acusis species, Milantella, which is a very special lodge, was there. But at some point we dared to go to the side. There was this sandy bank, and our friend Hakim said, "Let's try to look for the soulfish here, because they're normally in such sandy places." And indeed, we tried on I think 2 locations or something like a few meters away, and there were like I don't know 5, 6, 7 pieces in the net. All the same size, which was interesting because it's a rainy season, and I would expect a soulfish maybe in the rainy season to spawn. So I would have expected to have different sizes.
Yeah.
But they were almost the same size, no difference. I don't know when they're spawning, to be honest. I read some article they are doing it in Indonesia in the dry season, which is a bit surprising to me because, you would not expect it because this species seems also to be common sometimes in the brackish, which means the flow has to get the larvae somehow back to the brackish region, to the sea region, which is a bit more difficult in the dry season.
Definitely.
Of course.
Yeah, that is a bit odd.
There are a lot of mysteries in the soulfish.
It seems like it. There's just so much unknown. And it's like the more you find out, the more questions you have. So there's just, never-ending questions with these guys. Okay, well, that is pretty interesting. Are there other... Oh, I have one more question about when you were in Brunei. Did you go there specifically to do a fish collecting trip, or were you there for something else and decided to then check out the fish and in the water, or what?
Well, of course, Brunei is a very special country. It's very basic. It's forests, though the forests of Brunei are not developed. I mean, if you look on the satellite pictures, like on Google, you will see that around Brunei, all the Malaysia part, Indonesia part, highly developed. There are a lot of plantations, but Brunei is like a green lung of the region. And so you can expect a lot of wild animals to be seen there, which was our reason to go there because, well, the ecosystem there is just intact. And of course, if you go to Brunei, you want to see the betta macrostoma.
Yes.
This is the holy fighting fish of all fighting fish. I saw the habitats in Malaysia, and I saw, of course, the habitats in Brunei. And still, those are up to now my favorite places.
Neat.
Because it's really amazing if you are there. And normally they swim in such small pools, like, I don't know, 30, 40 centimeters deep, but clear water. And you just dive with your underwater camera and take pictures. And there are basically not many fish in there. It's just betta macrostoma and some Macrobrachium clymene shrimps. But they're not afraid of you. They're not afraid of you at all. So when they see you, they're all coming to you and checking up and looking at you and interacting with you. So it's a really great experience to have. That's why I'm really enjoying to go to Brunei. That's
great. Yeah, what a neat thing to be able to do. I know you mentioned you've spent some time in Vietnam as well. How is it traveling compared to somewhere like Brunei? It's obviously much more developed in a very different country, but how is it?
Well, that's, I mean, it's developed, but I would, comparing to Malaysia or Brunei, I would say the transportation system in Malaysia and Brunei is much better, or in Malaysia at least.
Okay.
They have much, much better highways and also better train stations.
Interesting.
Nevertheless, you can of course travel in Vietnam if you have time. You can take the train; they are pretty safe.
Sure.
If you like adrenaline, you can take the bus.
Yep, that's one of my most interesting bus rides, that's for sure.
Okay, we have something in common.
Yeah, I think that's one of those commonalities of people who have taken buses in Vietnam. There's always stories.
Oh
That's
man,
funny.
yes. So we tried to visit some biotops in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I must admit it was our first tropic expedition. You can call it expedition.
Cool.
So then we were very inexperienced. And we met several interesting habitats there, particularly one on the foot of the Cloudy Pass, which is quite well known because it's a former border between north and the south.
Got it.
And we were really not aware what we can find there. I heard from a friend that basically the only thing you can find there are shrimps, but I also found some publications saying on the internet that there are also rivers which much more fish, but nobody could tell me where they are. So we drove from the foot to the top, from the top to the foot, looking and looking and looking, and then at some point our driver was had some idea, and he saw that there was some bathing location, and he did this. It's a very short strip where people could bath, just go for swim, and all in all, the rest was a very natural river with a lot of interesting species there, and species like Opsarichthys. I'm a big fan, to be mentioned here. I'm a big fan of predatory danios. And Opsarichthys, Rayamas, Opsaridium all belong to them. So I was very happy about it. And also a very interesting thing we found there was, I suggest it was Stephadon. We could not catch any. It's a bit difficult, but we could see them clearly displaying underwater. And it was very interesting because until this day, there is no publication saying there are Stephadon in Vietnam at all. But we definitely saw them.
Oh, well, it sounds like a return trip is going to be necessary for this.
Definitely. A friend of mine, basically, Anton Lamboy, was also visiting the same location after me. I told him, go there, check it out, and he saw them also there.
Wow.
But also not lucky enough to get them.
Oh, that would be so neat because they're just such fascinating little fish. I know there are a couple of them featured in, what was that, one ago, our Gudgeons and Gobies edition. That there are some Stephadon species in there. Yeah, that was a great one. But that would be interesting. Okay. Good reasons to go back to Vietnam.
So this was basically a tremendous location with a lot of fish. Very interesting to fish there. We spent basically the whole day, which we didn't expect to do, but then it was just too interesting.
Sure. Yeah, because, well, it's crazy when you look at Vietnam and how long it is as a country. It's so narrow, but it's so long. So it just must cover so many different biotopes in different regions that you would think you could find some really interesting fish there. So, yeah, fascinating.
And there are still a lot of blank spots on it.
Yeah, I'll bet. Soon to be filled in. Yes. All right. So we'll finish up, I guess, with your most recent trip. So you were just in Cameroon a couple weeks ago. Tell me about that.
Oh, there was, I would say this is a child of Corona. Because we all were about a bit of tired sitting at home, and the situation seemed to be less stressy in the summer. So we said, okay, what can we do? Talked with my friends, and then we said, okay, let's go to Cameroon. Why not? And we decided to go to a part of Cameroon which is in the southeast, far southeast, around Lobeka National Park.
Okay.
And the region is very, let's say it, unexplored. There were very few expeditions. But not so many. And we thought, because this is a region where you get the water from Congo, or to Congo, better to say it, we will maybe find some interesting things which are not common in the other parts of the country, which was also the case. We had our list of fish we want to find, and I would say 95% of the fish we really found. For example, there is a Ctenopoma species occurring there, which was not in the hobby yet, or maybe once, not more than once.
Sure.
Ctenopoma maculatum, and we brought it back. So we hope that this is a good start for the carrier and the aquaristic for the species.
That's exciting.
There were also things like Opsaridium I already mentioned. I'm a big fan of such things. So I managed to bring some at home alive, which is also a big thing, I think. Wow, we had so many fish there.
That's so exciting.
There was a river place like 30, 40 meters in the length where we tried to catch fish in the day and then in the night. And for the 30, 40 meters, we got like 35, 40 species out.
Wow, that's amazing. Pretty
Really
densely biodiverse there. That's pretty cool.
It was like going with the net. Each time you go with the net, you get something new.
It sounds like the perfect place to go.
Indeed. But of course, to go to this place is not very easy, and this is the reason why the region is not very well explored. Because if you look at the map, those should be, I think, like 1,000 kilometers of drive, something like that. And while the first 300 are still okay, you have a very good route. Then it's getting muddy, and the more far you go, the more muddy it will be. And at some point, you just end up flying through your car up and down. This for 300 kilometers.
Oh no! So the last stretch is pretty rough. Okay.
Pretty rough.
Okay.
And this is basically the thing why nobody is going there. You also don't have many places to stay on the way, so you have to be before the darkness at your hotel, and you cannot do many stops because you need to be after the darkness in the hotel. You don't want to be somewhere on the border to Central African Republic stuck, which happened to us. But you don't want to do it.
No, I wouldn't recommend that. That doesn't sound very good. But you made it, so that's good.
Obviously, I'm sitting here.
Okay, how difficult was it to get fish home?
Sorry?
How difficult was it to get fish home from there?
That was, of course, a big deal, but we used a lot of breeding bags. And that helped a lot. We also had an experienced exporter from Cameroon who works with fish, so he had a lot of bags with him. He had oxygen with him, and we were able to repack fish if necessary in the evening.
That's helpful.
But of course, it's a big challenge, and we were now at the end of the rainy season, which means it was not too hot, maybe. And if you go more into the dry season, the temperatures rise, of course, and it will be more difficult.
Sure. Yeah, I guess that would become increasingly challenging.
So it was actually also like a thought from us. Shall we go in the dry season when the road is maybe a bit more better than now, or shall we go at the end of the rainy season? And we decided for the rainy season also because, as I mentioned before, it's in Asia, it's not differently. In the rainy season, you can expect a lot of juvenile fish, and juvenile fish normally are a bit easier to transport. So it's true, we also found a lot of juvenile fish, and the most fish I brought home are juvenile fish.
Okay. Oh, well, interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on your upcoming fish projects from Cameroon. That'll be exciting. And I guess lastly, do you have any other locations planned that you're going to go visit anytime in the near future?
Well, Of course, there are some slight plans for the next Cameroon trip, but this will not happen before 2023. And for the next year, I'm still a bit uncertain what will happen. Because, the borders close, the borders open. Maybe it will be Tanganyika, maybe it will be Brunei again. We have to see on the short term what is open, what is possible.
That sounds exciting. Both of these places sound like really good spots to bring underwater cameras to photograph these fish.
That's a good point. I thought the same, but indeed, if you bring your underwater camera, which I did, during the end of the rainy season, the water is still murky. You don't
so
see
murky.
it.
No,
so it was packed in my bag for all 11 days, and I didn't take it out. It was very embarrassing.
That is really too bad. Hopefully it wasn't too big of one to lug around, but happens though. It's funny. Well, very cool. Thanks so much for sharing all of this with us. Everyone can read your most recent Flatfish article in 11.1. And I will also point people to one of our back issues from 2017, which was all about anabantoids from Cameroon. So you should definitely check that one out as well. The title of this one, and I'll put it up so people can go check it out, was The Banded Bushfish, an unusual bubble nester from Central Africa.
I remember.
Yes,
I remember.
which was the Microtina poma. Yeah, that was a cool one. Yeah, great pictures too. That was beautiful.
I wrote another species, so expect the next article.
Oh, exciting. All right, very cool. Well, I'll put that one up so people can check that out too. But yeah, in the meantime, thanks so much for chatting. And this has been fun. I hope everyone enjoys this author interview, and they should definitely go read your 11.1 article. So thanks.
Thank you for your invitation.
Absolutely.
Have fun reading Amazonas.